Welcome back to, I guess, part 2 of our 5 exercise. This one is going to be called 5H if-else, and it's just an introduction to conditional statements. And this time we're just going to be dealing with age. So what you can do is use your previous file, this one that's called 5password if-else, and make sure it's saved. Make sure you saved your last version. And this time I'm going to do save as, and I'm just going to take away the password part and just put age. And I'll keep the if-else in there, I guess. And I'll just save it. So this is going to be called 5H if-else. And I could even keep the code here because we could use this. But we're going to change a couple things here. I'm going to make my variable age. And instead of password, we're going to say enter age. And again, we'll just review something here. I'll get rid of some of this stuff here. We're just going to do 1 to start. I'll say if age equals, and what did I do wrong already? You got to do equals equals. I'll say if age equals, actually, you know what I'll do? We'll do about whether you can buy beer. How about that? If you have to be over 21 to buy beer. So let's put a condition that you have to be greater than or equals. And that's kind of a reminder that you need to put 2 characters here, because when you use less than or greater than, or even not equals, you can put an exclamation point equals. But right now we're going to put greater than or equal to 21. So if you're 21 or over, you can purchase beer. Or any kind of alcohol, I guess. So we're going to just put that there, and I'll put an exclamation point. So if you're over 21 or 21, that's what it's saying. If greater than, and again, you know how I remember the greater than or less than? It could be confusing. The other way looks like an L. This one doesn't. That's the way I remember it. You may know other things about the arrow and stuff like that, but when I see it going the other way, I know that looks like an L going down. So that's greater than equal to 21. You can purchase beer. If you're not, go home. You can't buy beer. So let's try this out, and I'll save it, and we'll see if I'm old enough to buy a beer. And I'm 52, and I got an error. Now that's not good. Now, does anybody know why I got an error? You just have to know how to read the type error. It's a type error down here, and it says it's using, this is kind of a math thing. So you don't use that with strings, because it's greater than or equal. How would you use that with strings? That would be hard to use. So it says that it's not supported with string. And don't forget that when you use an input prompt, it comes back, it returns the value as a string. So it's going to return a string, even though what it's really doing is it's doing this. When you put in 21, it's using a value like that. And it's giving a problem because it can't do that with a string. So what you have to do here is, just like we did on the other ones, is put an int here. Now you could put int around here. Now also, let me just mention this. You can also reassign this. You could just go down here and say age equals and put int age. You can do that. You could reassign it. Now you can't just do this. You can't just do int age. You have to reassign it, because this is assigning it to that, and then this just means you're doing an operation to age, but it's not really going to carry it along. It's not going to carry it along in here. Matter of fact, just to prove it to you, let me try that, because I could be wrong. And let me run this, and I'll enter age 52, and I still get the error. This doesn't do anything yet. It looks like it's running an operation on age, but it's not sending the value along. It's still using this. This is the way it's assigned. That's why you have to reassign it. You have to say, by the way, age is now an int. So this is reassigning it. It's giving it a new value. The other way is not. That's just running an operation, which you could do within somewhere, but you can't just do it on its own. It won't change the variable just by putting int age. You have to say the variable now is converted to an int. So just be aware of that when you reassign things. So now it's going to be an int. And again, you could have put int around the whole input, but I'm just reassigning it here. It's more code, but maybe that way you can understand it better sometimes. Sometimes that helps. So I'll save this, and I'll run it. And I'll put in my age, and I can purchase beer. I'll put in my son's age. He's 20. He has to go home. He can't buy beer. Okay, so that's your if and else. That's your conditional statement. Remember, you need colons. Remember, else does not need any kind of condition. It just means if this is not true. This one is pretty straightforward. Either you're over 21 or you're not. Now, obviously, if you did something like this, if you entered, let's say you put in 21 and you were, okay, you'll get an error because you're putting in a string and it can't convert a string to an integer. Now, there's ways we can deal with that later, but we're not going to deal with it right now. So right now, we'll just have to deal with that. You have to put in an integer for the time being. And you're going to have problems if you try to put in a string. It won't convert a string to an integer. I mean, it can't. How do you convert letters into a number? You can't. It doesn't know to do that. So anyway, just be aware of that. So make sure we just enter numbers for the time being. We're doing this can purchase beer thing. Let me try something else. I'm going to put one more. We'll just keep it in the same file. We don't have to make a new file. And I'll just do this just because my daughter just got her learner's permit for driving. So I'm going to put another thing here. And I could use the same variable. So I'm going to make a new block. So I'll put new conditional block, and I'll just put another if-else statement. I'll say if age. Now, this is in Pennsylvania, so if her age, since she turned 16, she can get her learner's permit. So if her age is, and I'll just put equals equals. I won't put greater than because that brings in all kinds of issues. So I'll put if age equals 16. If she's 16, I'll put my colon, and I'll just copy this so I don't have to keep retyping stuff. And I'll put, you can get your learner's permit. I don't know if it's learners with apostrophe at the end or apostrophe S. But anyway, if she's 16, you can get your learner's permit. And then I'll put another one here. I'll copy this whole statement and make sure I move this out. Now you can put multiple ifs, and we'll talk about that later. But just for now, let's stick to elif. You can put multiple ifs. But until you have an error and you find out something, then you'll realize why it's not always a good idea to do that. But you can put if. But for now, I'm just going to put elif. So if she's not 16, it's going to check this one. And I'll put 17. Now, I know learner's permits, I think you can be 6 months away or something. I'm just going to put 17 just for the sake of this exercise. And I'll put you can get your driver's license. This is your junior driver's license. That way I'll differentiate. You can get your junior's driver's license. And then, I guess when you're 18, I think, I'm not even sure I think when you're 18, you can get your senior license. And then you could stay out after midnight on your own. And now if age is 18. Now, here, you can be 18 or older. You don't have to just be 18. Here, we're going to put greater than and equal to 18. And then you can get your senior driver's license. So if you waited until you were 20, you could have done it then. So now you could get your senior's driver's license. So now we have 3 conditions here. So, and we're still going to use it. We still have the same age thing, so we could still stick with that. We're still putting in an age. We can put in any age. And let's just see what happens here. We're going to have basically 2 print statements. We're either going to have this one of whether you can buy beer, and then this one whether you get a certain license. So let's just try it out. Let's save it. And let's say I'm 3. It says go home. Now, it didn't do anything here. If you notice, it didn't go here and do any of these because age is 3, and it's basically saying, is age 16? No. Is age 17? No. Is age greater than 18? No. What did I forget here? I didn't put an else. So let's put an else and put that in there. And now we have an else. So if you're not any of these, I won't put go home. Call dad. That's what they do now. Call dad. Pick her up. That's what happens here. Put for a ride. Call dad for a ride. That's what gets them motivated to get their license. But anyway, this is if none of these are the case. Now here, it just said go home. So it didn't even, it validated these. It said, are you 16? No. Are you 17? No. Are you greater than 18? No. And it stopped. But now if I have an else, that means anything else. If you're 3, it'll give me something here. So let me do that again and make sure I have my finish here, my else. So I'll try it if, how about if I'm a 7? And it says, go home, call dad for a ride. And that's what happens when you're 7. You can't buy beer, and you can't drive yet. But what happens if you're 16? Go home. You can't buy beer, but you can get your learner's permit. And if you're 17, you still can't buy beer, but you can get your junior driver's license. And if you're 18, you still can't buy beer, but you can get your senior driver's license. And that would be the same for 19 unless you're 21. So let's just try it. Let's see if it's me. I'm 52. I can purchase beer, and I could get my senior driver's license, and I could stay out after midnight buying beer. All those fun adult things. So anyway, that's it so far. That's our little introduction to if-else statements. Now we have 2 conditional blocks here. We have variables with inputs, and here we did a reassignment. This one is going through and validating if age is greater than 21, and there's 2 results that can happen. If it's true, you can purchase beer. If not, you go home. And then age is still the variable. So if you're 21, it's going to say, if you're 16, it's going to skip it. If you're 17, it's going to skip it. If you're greater than 18, it's going to say you can get your driver's license. And if you happen to be under these ages, it'll say go home or it'll say call dad for a ride if you're any under those ages as well. So again, just a little sample here to get us started with if-else statements. Some of the things to remember here. Now, converting things and ints and floats and all that will be a problem. And if people put in letters and they're supposed to be numbers, and people put in numbers and it's supposed to be strings and all that, that's going to be an issue we're going to have to deal with. Validating input is always going to be a problem. You deal with it every day when you enter passwords and you get it wrong, or you do something wrong, but it'll give you feedback. So it'll always be ready for whatever kind of feedback it gets. It knows when you're wrong. It knows if you didn't put a capital letter. It knows all that stuff. So that's all programming that has to go into that. This is just a little introduction here to our conditional blocks of if, elif, and else. So what we're going to do next is we're going to move on and call it exercise 6, and we're going to go back to our test scores, and we're going to put letter grades on there based on the percentage that they get.